Hello everyone, welcome back to Rule the Roost podcast. I haven't been to an Oktoberfest tent today. Oh, I'm odd. So it's hopefully going to be a much more coherent podcast. Although I think, well, actually, do you know what? The lads steadied the ship the other day, Connor and Phil. So, you know, whether or not I'm not coherent at the best of times. This intro is a case in point, isn't it? But again, I've got another ship steadier on board, and that is. Everybody knows him by now. Hello, Spooky. Welcome back, mate. How are you getting on?
All right, mate. But I do need to add the caveat that I'm also quite awful at intros, and
they're tough.
I don't know when to stop. I don't know when to stop talking as well, which is another massive issue.
Do you know what it is? It's the formality of the whole thing. And I'm not trying to just sort of wrap this up in some. Ooh, I'm zany. I'm such a tortured artist. Although it is a little bit that. I'm at the peak of my powers when I'm just. Bang, let's just go. Let's just embrace the chaos. Let's just get into it. The structured side, I think this is probably why I always struggle to hold down jobs, really. Is because, like, the structure of things, having to, like, approach something in that sort of fashion, it always throws me a bit. You know, I always want to colour outside the lines, you know? Do you know what I mean, man?
That should be encouraged,
so edgy, right?
A lot more. I mean, you know, not to go completely deep on education and the way that the system works. I mean, a lot of it has always been about conditioning, right? You know, you just kind of condition people, and for the most part, maybe 80-90% of people will just be ready for any type of mundane office job, and then there'll always be those extremes, those people that have that talent to go just that one step further simply because of natural abilities or capacity to kind of learn really easily. But in amongst all those percentages, you've got people who are creative, and so how do you at a very early age allow that creativity to roam free? I think we're really lucky anyway. I mean, generally, just talking about us and football and whatever else, anybody, whether you're on a podcast or on Twitter, you do have that freedom to be expressive in whatever way you wish to be expressive, you know. And I like these, even if no one was listening. You know, me chatting to someone about football in this kind of one-on-one situation where we're not actually facing each other, which is obviously the best way to do it. It's therapeutic, mate, and it kind of helps. It kind of helps you. It helps me anyway, just in terms of formulating my perspectives and opinions. You see, I've done it. There's the perfect example of me banging on and talking and rambling, and I don't even know what my point was. Classic Spooky.
That's it, mate. You know, just get it out, and that's it. You know, on to the next one. And that, you know, not that I don't treasure and pour a lot of energy into this medium of podcasting, but that's what I do like about it. I do like that it's a fairly disposable medium to a degree. If you know what I mean, like exactly. It helps me through the week. It helps other people through the week. I'm not just saying. I'm not projecting that. People send me lots of nice messages to that effect, you know, and it's, I don't know, it's quite a nice way of, I'm under no illusions, mate, you know, like, it's not any sort of humble brag thing. Yeah, you know, a few people listen to this, but at the same time, I'm not under any illusions. I'm not, you know, speaking to millions of people. It's just something that is kind of like a sort of nice little community, really, that forms out the back of all this stuff. And, you know, I don't want to get too sort of navel gazing about all this, but even, you know, between all the different pods, like the sort of way we all interact and generally take the piss out of each other, do you know what I mean? But still, it's just quite a nice little thing, isn't it? I think it's in all the sort of bullshit and all the kind of fractures that appear, whether it's about Ndombele or whether it's about should we sell Harry Kane or not, should we bench him in Son or not, and everything that just occurs within our fan base, it is nice to just sort of also have a bit of a sort of I don't know, just a load of twats talking shit, really, isn't it? That's the way I can put it. That's
what we do at the game, in the pubs, you know, with family, with friends. You know, it's just a means of, like I said, it's just a means of just processing everything. It's just classic football fandom, really. We just overcomplicate something that's fundamentally really basic. You know, it's just a bunch of men kicking the ball about, and that's really it. But it's not. It's a lot more. So here we are.
Well, on that note, mate, it feels like the right time to dive into, and we'll start with the tragic passing of Gian Piero Ventrone. I mean, obviously, he hasn't been at the club a long time at all, but he's worked with Conte for the past 30 years, and regardless of his time at the club, it seems as though he's left a remarkably kind of lasting impression on many of the players, if not all of the players. And it felt like the platitudes that were coming out from a lot of the players, the grief that was being expressed pretty publicly from somebody like Harry Kane, who, let's be honest, is not... He's a pretty straight guy, right? You know, he's not really one to show a lot of emotion other than when he's not scoring goals. Other than when he is scoring goals, I should say. And just seeing kind of that, it didn't just feel like it's something that the players are just shocked by proximity, right? It really feels like they are actually really kind of affected. Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
So to put in that type of performance, and really, do you know what? To be fair to him, for even Conte to just show up for the match, like the guy's like an uncle or a brother to him or whatever, really, in the spectre of things. That's the impression I get.
They all flew out for the funeral after the game.
Wow.
Is my understanding from what I read. So it kind of does put a lot of things into perspective. I kind of woke up this morning and I wrote a blog for my Patreon, just covering the Brighton game in Yodi philosophical rambles again. And then I kind of just dumped a whole load of paragraphs down about what's happened in the last couple of weeks, and it's in terms of what they're going through. It's something that resonates because we have all gone through it, right? With friends, family, people that we know, worked with. You know, everybody's been touched by something tragic. You know, it's just unavoidable. But there was just something, and I'm going to publish this at some point. I might even kind of share it for free because I think it might. I don't know, might help people in some way. I don't know, or maybe it's just several paragraphs of me waffling on and not really saying much, like I'm doing now. But there was something about how, for a moment, kind of the fourth wall was kind of broken. Like we were seeing emotions beyond the things that we expect to see within football. And often we have such high expectations of players and managers and teams, and we kind of stand there kind of demanding, and often, you know, we hide behind, well, they're paid millions and that's their job and that's what they should be doing week in, week out. And we kind of forget, well, they're actually normal people, they're human beings as well. You know, like there's lots of people that earn a lot of money. It doesn't mean that you, just because of who they are in the public eye or what their job is, that it diminishes their capacity to handle situations like this. I mean, they've lost a colleague, they've lost a friend, they've lost someone that has had a massive influence. It speaks volumes about the man himself to have only been there for a short time and to have impacted positively on so many players, and to have done so without being able to speak English. Do you know what I'm saying? It's and you can see, you saw Harry Kane, you saw, you know, the look in his eye, and Conte and his staff and everyone else. And something about that just really, I don't know, it kind of hit me hard. Maybe because I'm just a very emotional person, like on any normal given day. Probably a consequence of far too much MDMA in my 20s and 30s. But it kind of felt it gave me this connection to all of them. You kind of amplified it or solidified it even more. This kind of, and this is quite, you know, people might listen to this and think, what are you, you know, you're a proper hippie, Spooky. But this kind of connection, this togetherness, this kind of family thing that often is dismissed, especially recently, where we've sort of been lost with the macro and micro criticisms that we've kind of aimed at Spurs around style, play and identity, and all these kind of doubts that we have about the short term and the long term, all these kind of very normal footballing fundamental blocks of supporting, right? The things that you go through when you overthink everything. And it's just that this is and it's taken something tragic to kind of sort of shake me and remind me that there are far more important things in life, and yet at the same time, kind of paradoxically, that they're entwined together. Because I didn't know the guy. I didn't know him personally. I rarely thought about him, to be fair. And with the other staff that Spurs have, obviously, you knew about his training and his conditioning and preparations,
the Marine and that type of thing.
And it was almost not a gimmick to us, but it was almost like Spurs are really sort of cracking on with the physicality side of things. Conte said he was going to do this. He's brought in the right man. And you kind of respect him from afar, and you knew of his relationship with Conte as well, if you look deeply into it. And obviously you've got the likes of the Athletic and other kind of mainstream media giants, I guess, that write think piece articles about the infrastructure and whatever else, and that's very, very interesting. But then you're scapegoating players again, and you're back to why doesn't Kane play better than he's been playing? He's scored like 8 times this season, and all the other things that you get distracted with, and you take it all for granted. And I guess it just plugged me back into. I mean, there's nothing super insightful about this other than I just felt connected again. Or just reminded of the fact that these guys, there is in the moment they're as Tottenham as we are, right? They're not just getting paid a wage and they're just turning up and kicking the ball about. They're there for a reason, and they're all fighting for the badge and the shirt. And it just, I don't know if I'm articulating this at all, mate. To be fair, but it just really binded me with all of them, and it's because those emotions are real emotions, things that we can find ourselves connected to, as opposed to everything else that is often pantomime, and it's often kidology and psychological things, when managers are losing it, in post-match interviews and the rest of it. Often it's just because that's the way they process things, and it all becomes part of the conversation around Spurs. But the impact that it's had, and then you take into account that they've had to get on with their job, and we've still stood on the sidelines being critical of, we could have played better, we could have done this, we could have done that, and I just think it anchors you back to a reality that we often ignore.
But I don't think it's just us as well feeling that, and I'll choose my words carefully because I don't want to come across as crass when I talk about this type of thing, because at the end of the day, it's a human being that's died in seriously tragic circumstances. It's real life.
So young as well.
Life is fragile stuff, right?
Exactly.
When you hear, I think Conte had said he spoke to him the day he died, and he called in to say he felt like he had a fever, and he would try to come in but didn't, and then he died shortly after. With this. I'm not 100% on the medical side of it, but it sounds like this rare, freakish type of cancer that just comes on very quickly. It's terrifying. It's awful. But in terms of the rawness, the binding kind of presence of something like this that anchors people to a reality that we're all here and we're all just trying to kind of get on. I think that's even. It's obviously affected Antonio Conte. Like I was saying, it's guys like a uncle figure or something to him. But it's the first time as well I think we saw as Tottenham fans that rawness and that emotional side from him after the game when he spoke of the players and how they did Gian Piero and him proud, and how proud he is to be the coach of this group of players, of like this. I think he called them like good men or something like that.
Yeah.
It's such a. And this is why I'm saying I want to choose my words carefully, because I don't think it's a result of a death that we're suddenly seeing this of Antonio Conte. But like we're saying, it's this centering where it's like, what, let's drop the shit. I'm not a coach there. I'm not trying to force the best out of these players. I'm not trying to say, I'm not stupid. I'm not playing Matt Doc. It's just a case of these are good men. They're good players. I'm happy to be here. No bullshit. Nothing. This is the reality of this situation. And like you say, it is centering, and maybe this is a moment for the club. But this is what I mean. I don't want it to be. I don't want to talk about this in crass terms like this.
I understand.
It's not an opportunity for Tottenham on a sporting basis. I'm just
Yeah.
Like I say, it feels like a moment for the club and for this group of players and this tenure of Antonio Conte. This solidity. But let's sort of segue into the game itself, because it's an absolutely fantastic win for Tottenham. Like, it's so wild how understated that victory's been. Brighton have been in, they've lost Graham Potter, but this is a Brighton that just went to Anfield and looked better than Liverpool. You can say whatever you want about Liverpool and their form this year. It's still Liverpool. It's still going to Anfield. And this is Brighton, who, lest we forget, let's be honest, for the majority of the Premier League era have been a, League 2, Division 1, whatever you want, like League 2, League 1, Division 1 club, who are now one of the most, I would say, progressive and exciting clubs in maybe Europe. The model that they've kind of managed to adopt, where they've signed exciting player after exciting player. I'm sure the lads at the Extra Inch will probably know more about their data scouting or whatever it is that they're doing, but they seem to be getting hit after hit at the moment. Players like Trossard, who is surely going to go to Chelsea in January or in summer, but that's a player who they signed from I think the Belgian league, fairly insignificant sum of money, who looks absolutely fantastic. Like, we're talking about him in those terms, that he might be going to play for one of the best clubs in Europe. Yeah, I hate to say it, but let's be real about it. But Spurs went and put on an exceptionally professional display and really didn't actually really give Brighton much of a sniff. We were talking about this in the post-match pod. Can't really remember Lloris being troubled at all, bar one save, I think.
We were comfortable. I mean, it's funny. I guess this is why it's best to watch a game of football and kind of digest it and consume it without having to kind of commentate on it on Twitter and read other people's reactions to it. Because for a lot of the game, I was hypercritical. Even though I was impressed with Spurs, I was like, why do we keep giving the ball away in midfield? There was some casualness and sloppiness, and I guess it's just the way that often we're wired up for this these days. Our expectancy is so high in just every part of the pitch, in every transition, in every automation, in every kind of fluid and non-fluid, defensive or attacking piece of play, that the brain goes to the little things and probably kind of exaggerates them in the moment. You can still look at Spurs and say, yeah, we're not as tidy as we can be. Yeah, we're not as fluid as we should be up front. And yet, you're right. I don't think Brighton really had that much of a sniff. I mean, they played like you said, they play very attractive football. They're very easy on the eye. They've always had an issue with XG. I mean, they've always had a problem with just finishing. Often there's that classic, what if Harry Kane played for Brighton during peak Potter? Do you know what I mean? Would they have been a far more complete package? That's oversimplifying football, I guess. Stick a player up front and then all their problems are solved. But yeah, they've been playing really well. They haven't lost at home since we last beat them back in April. I know it's 7 months, but obviously no football gets played over the summer, so it's a bit of a kind of colourful description. But understated is the perfect way, because even at the final whistle, I mean, for me it was again the emotion behind it. Hugo Lloris going up to the away end with the shirt, and just all of that was quite overwhelming and really positive, and we're kind of honouring the man in such a great way. And it was again an illustration, a showcase of just how strong Tottenham are mentally. And it's we often fixate, and I know you've done the same. Your pod with John Bass the other week was great. I kind of agreed and disagreed with bits and pieces, but there was a lot that was said that often we fixate on in terms of style and identity and swagger and swashbuckle and whatever else, and the things that are probably intrinsic to competing properly. The stuff about having a bit of metal about you, of spirit, guile, mental fortitude, all this type of stuff. The traits that we often struggled with over the course of most of my life now just come natural to Tottenham. And we just kind of forget about them, which is fair enough because they're fundamentals, right? If you want to challenge, if you want to go to Brighton away and beat them, if you want to be in contention for the title as much as you can with City, you need to be doing all these other things as well as playing well and winning, and not playing well and winning, or being functional, or being really canny and clever against different types of opposition. And again, I've really bought into Conte, and I think the human aspect of it that was always there. I was never one to just take his words and think, oh, he's going to leave. Look how angry he is. Oh, he's having a go at Levy. And I never saw that as being a genuine, kind of a genuine sort of outburst. It was always about
maybe
the way
after
that he...
Burnley, though, right? Surely.
Well, the Burnley thing was weird because he came... the statement he made after that game, if you remember, a few days after, I mean, definitely something went on because everybody was quiet for 2 days, and then he kind of apologised and said, my relationship with Levy's great, and this, that, and the other, and this is just the way I am. I go over the top, my reactions, and I just, you can read more into that without a doubt, and it probably was a moment that had me fairly scared, but I kind of get it, and I kind of unplugged into the whole thing around getting the foundation right, and often we kind of forget that he's not had a full season at Tottenham. Yes, the football should, will hopefully be a lot more fun. I think if Kane and Son were connecting as they did last season, the season before, since forever, we would probably still win games really comfortably playing at 60%, which is where we're at the minute, if not lower. So it's an impressive display because of what's happened in the past week or so, and because it's like I said, a showcase to how strong we are mentally. That we're not phased. We're not a team that understands or capitulates or looks to kind of give in and throw in the towel. We've had some ropey performances here and there, no doubt, but again, we dig deep every time, and it was a fantastic 3 points. And teams are going to go there and struggle this season. And I think Spurs, when you actually look at the away days,
it's only the second game they've lost this year, mate.
I mean, it's mad, and yet it's been dismissed and being ignored. And even I'm admitting that during the game, I probably didn't enjoy it as much as I should have because of the distractions, because of the everything else that's been going on, and more so because of this high expectancy that sometimes bleeds into my own brain.
Can I just shock you for a second, though, Spookies? And because in reference to sort of the pod I did with John Bass the other day, I feel that the funny thing is, since that point, it almost, I'm sure he's listened to this, but it feels like he's addressed a lot of the points that I sort of felt and was talking about, just because Frankfurt was a really divided. We were talking about the culture wars, about should we drop him in Son or this or that. Frankfurt the other night was a big one. What were you watching if you thought that was good, or you're an idiot if you didn't think that was good. I'm not really diving into that, but the funny thing is, considering how livid I was out the back of the North London derby, and it was a 0-0 game, but I thought we were really good in Frankfurt. I thought it looked like we were turning the corner. I thought the football was good. I thought it was pretty expansive. I thought we were creating a lot of opportunities. I thought we were pressing them all over the park. It was a good performance. And I don't even just buy... Look, because people can pick and choose, right, when they want to say, oh, but the opposition. What's the opposition that just won the Europa League, It's the opposition that we were talking about going into that, being like, it's not going to be an easy game. But I think we made it look pretty easy.
But this is my point, Jack. Like, just in terms of, people forget it's a Champions League group game. And it's like there's this kind of well, we should be smashing this team. Who are they? Oh, it's 0-0. That's not a good result. It's like, mate, it's a 0-0 away from home. We now we have it in our hands now. We've got 2 games at home against Frankfurt and then against Lisbon. I don't see us losing either. I see us winning both, and then we've qualified, right? So what do you want out of this experience? I mean, it's one thing to say, "Oh, I want us." We should have beaten them 2 or 3-0. We probably should have. Again, if it wasn't for the lack of kind of clinical final balls and touches in and around the penalty area in the final third. It wasn't the system that was at fault. It wasn't the football that was at fault. It's just individuals not quite sparking, not quite clicking. And it's been the story of our season. I'm not denying that but it's a good thing. It's a good problem to have because these players are not going to get any worse. They're not going to degrade. They're going to find the form that we know they're able to produce. So to go to Frankfurt, get the point, play really well, look really good, lots of nice little phases where the football was really kind of organically sort of instinctive, and it was just so. It felt like a moment, like you said, that they're waking up a little bit, and then to go to Brighton and a completely different type of occasion, and set up a little bit differently, and to put in the performance that we did. These are the things that you should be celebrating as a Spurs fan. And again, call me a happy clapper. These people say, well, this is what you should be doing if you're a proper team. Mate, if you've got that attitude, you're never going to enjoy anything because you're always going to be setting benchmarks. And you're always going to be downplaying everything. The whole point, and fair enough, we're not having like glorious moments of football where it's limbs and you're losing a shoe and the rest of it. But there's also the side of Tottenham that has been maligned for a long time. People... You see it in rival fans. They're annoyed that Tottenham have won 1-0. Well, it's only Brighton. Why are you glorifying? You played 15 defensive midfielders. What do you expect? Of course you won the game. It's like they don't like it when Spurs are actually quite astute and have depth mentally and physically and get the job done. People don't like to see that. And I think some of our fans have kind of bought into that narrative a little bit too much as well, where they don't respect the fact that you have got to win games like that. If we win 10 games, 12 games like that across the season, even 15 games like that, and then the remaining games we're swaggering and smashing teams, we've probably won the league, in this kind of theory, or we've finished second or whatever, based on the grafting, on the ugly, on the spirited performances. And Conte has all that, and it's... I'm backing him, man. I'm backing him like I did with AVB and Mourinho. So I haven't got great track record.
Did you? Well, but what's the point of not? That's the main thing, isn't it? But did you take much from him changing the formation? 'Cause I was buzzing, to be honest, when I saw that we were starting with the 3 in midfield, Basuma there, and we looked miles better.
Yeah, we did.
Do you think he's going to stick with it?
I think so, but I think there's the potential to be able to whether you want to call it plan A and B or whatever, you just need to be flexible. You need to have the ability to kind of change it up depending on the opposition. There'd be games where no doubt, the traditional 2 in the middle might work a lot better simply because of the way the opposition are going to set up. But then, if the opposition make adjustments, you need to be able to react to it as well. And I think there is, as much as Conte is super experienced, kind of knows what he wants, he's still inherited a team that he's trying to build into a reflection of his, ethos and philosophy. And as he keeps saying, we probably need another 1 or 2 windows to be able to get there, especially with the wing backs. We need a proper, fully fledged right wing back to be able for that system to truly work. And we need to refine the left side a little bit more, perhaps. So, yeah, I hope he sticks with it because I think it gives us a lot more control. It allows us to maybe dictate the tempo a little bit more. It just makes us stronger. And as we've seen in a few games this season, we have surrendered. And I know it's a tactical thing often. We have been quite passive in the way we've surrendered time and space, but we do that because we know we can break, counter and score. And we wouldn't be complaining if we did that with that fluidity that is lacking. So there's little things, there's little problems, there's little question marks that have always been there. But I just think we need to just appreciate what he's trying to do, and that we keep getting shown up right all the time. We keep jumping to these. I mean, you and John spoke about the kind of binary kind of conclusions after every single game. It's like the end. It's like, whereas the football we should know by now, it doesn't work like that. So I'm really proud of my team, and like I said, I feel really connected to all of them, and yeah, I want to see us persist with 3-5-2. Perhaps we've got a creative issue centrally because we do have a lot of defence-minded players, but people like Basuma, players like Basuma, I still don't think he's anywhere near the type of player he's going to be for us in terms of application and influence. So we know Conte's football is really around the kind of automation type of play, be in the right place at the right time. And from that, you can kind of curate some creativity. And we're lacking Kulusevski as well, I mean, there's lots of little things that are not quite right with us, but we're heading in the right direction.
But even what we're starting to see right now in Højbjerg, that doesn't look like a sort of a midfield destroyer, if you like. His range of passing, his reading of the game and everything that is, in fairness, kind of displayed probably piecemeal, given the sort of the system and my criticisms of that. But we see glimpses of it, Like I said, I think it was Nesbitt that's spoken about how for the national team he does play in a more advanced role, and you see a lot more from him. I think Arsenal are talking about that this year with Xhaka. The Xhaka that played us in the North London derby the other week was unrecognisable, but we don't need to go back to that mire. It would be nice. But I was looking at, I was seeing, I've been pretty anti the idea of James Maddison in the past, and not because he tweeted some stuff about Arsenal when he was, I think, literally about 12 or 13. More just because I've always felt he's that sort of match of the day player and whatever. But
highlight reel player.
Yeah, but seeing those kind of his free kicks the other day and seeing him sort of doing the Richarlison thing of being the one player that's still working hard in a team that looks dead on its knees, looks like it's going down almost definitely. I still suspect they'll have that Everton arc where they'll get out of it kind of second half of the season, but for now they look gone. And I was talking to Connor the other day when we were watching the Spurs game, being like, you know what, as much as I don't like him, don't like his face, I don't like everything he's about, there's a certain spark, there's a certain excitement in somebody like James Maddison actually, when I really think about it, that I'm like, maybe we could do with that, And this is the question now, though, that we've just spoken about. There's, where do you play him, though? Because you'd have to have three in midfield, right? And you'd naturally assume that Bissouma falls out and it's Bentancur and Højbjerg behind a slightly more advanced Maddison. Does that work? Or is it simply a case that the system is what it is? The type of players that we have right now are the type of players that we're going to have. You'd imagine we're going to go in for Conte in summer, free agent. Him and Conte have a good relationship.
Oh, did you mean Kante?
Kante, yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to be.
Do you think so?
I think we're going for him, mate. And you know what? I know he's coming towards the end of his career. He's got injury problems. Blah blah blah. Bring him the fuck in, mate. Honestly, to me he's one of the best ever Premier League footballers. And if Bissouma can learn from him, no brainer.
This is it with like Yaya Toure and all the other things that we have spoken about in the past. Just the way the infrastructure is changing and evolving, and the type of coaches and the type of the scouting system and the people that we're employing to do this, that, and the other. And then like today, you've got the news. It's finally broken that we're in talks with Google.
The Google Dome.
Yeah, for naming rights and the rest of it. There's very little that's wrong with Spurs, and if obviously we live by the football, we live by the results. That's what we're about as supporters. We want to go on this grand adventure and this journey, and this is unlike. It's not comparable to Mourinho. I know a lot of people have tried to compare it to Mourinho in terms of the football. I don't see that connection at all. In that, I think Mourinho was trying to do something and had absolutely no idea how to do it really in the right way. It was more desperate. It was less. It was far more chaotic, and there was no real structure to it. And to compare that to what we've got under Conte is pretty poor punditry. If you're a supporter that's actually doing that, I think there are questions around Conte as well. I think you might have mentioned it just in terms of Eriksen at Inter, was not playing a part at all in this season, and he kind of came into it quite late. I think because Conte was kind of supposedly forced to play him. I mean, I don't know how much you can kind of read into that, but the whole question around creativity is can a creative player sit in a central position? I mean, can Kulusevski do it potentially, and then be allowed to kind of roam out of that position because he'd be able to, simply because of the amount of numbers we'll have in the middle of the park to protect him. There's things that we are talking about right now. Don't know whether they're kind of pragmatic enough to fit into what Conte wants, because obviously he's not big on complete expression. But that's not to say that individuals can't produce, creativity, even with the discipline. I mean, Ndombele was obviously not disciplined enough for the system and the requirements.
Oh, you're not bringing them up again, are you?
Oh, no. Fuck.
I don't want to start this one off.
No. But my point is, rather than focus on him, just generally speaking.
I know. I'm just being churlish.
He does need to trust in the players, and people banging on about Basuma. Why? Surely he's better than Højbjerg. Why isn't he starting games? I don't understand, mate. You're just someone on Twitter saying you don't understand. Of course you don't fucking understand. I mean, Conte's there on the training pitch every day. If he's saying he's not ready because of this, that, or the other, it's probably because of the level that Conte works at, that he demands a type of perfection that we probably don't appreciate. And again, people will probably say, perfection. Have you seen our Viking play football? And we're getting to this kind of scapegoating thing about trying to compare footballers pound for pound, like for like, in terms of all the bad things that they do, and maybe not focus so much on all the good things that they do. There is a logic to it. Pochettino was the same. He took time to embed certain players. And I just think that often the answers and perhaps even the kind of evolutionary steps that a side takes can happen accidentally, but they can also happen because it's simply the way that, it's scripted to within the club. And Conte's thinking ahead. No doubt he's looking at the team and he's looking at the weaknesses, and he's thinking, are the resolutions within the squad now, or do we need a January window? Do we need to change the formation? Do we need to stick to 3-5-2? I think all these things are good, and they're basically all good because we're third in the league. We've lost once because of officiating, if I'm going to be completely honest and bitter about it. We're in a good position. We truly are, and I think we just need to be. As a fan base, we need to be behind the team, unconditionally. I know that people are going to struggle with that concept, but that's the whole point.
Let's on this point, mate, because I want to jump in on this one. If it was Liverpool doing what Arsenal are doing this year, if it was Liverpool and City above us, and Liverpool in the sort of form that Arsenal are now, I dare say even myself, we'd be way more positive about what Spurs are doing this year so far, because we are having a brilliant season. We are, at least points-wise and whatever. It's objectively a promising year for us. it is just, and the thing is, I don't, it's too easy to throw out that we just need to ignore them and we need to get on with it. It is shit when they play like this. It's, what I was thinking, I was thinking about this, like seeing them doing what they're doing, and it's just like, why can't we just catch up? Like, is it not enough that Spurs haven't won the league in like one of our best kind of periods ever? Is it not enough that we still, we lost that Champions League final? Is it not enough that we've had a good few years of it being pretty turgid and not too promising? Why is it now that they have to get good? Why is it just a given? Why do they have to get good? Why can't they just say shit forever? Right. They've won a double. They've taken our club captain. They've done all these amazing things. Like, just fuck off, Like, please just fuck off, because they're detestable. They really are, and I don't want to dwell on them for too long because I've done this and it's boring. Do you know what? And the thing is, people say, "Oh, don't do this to yourself. You're just panicking." I'm not. I'm really not. I've seen Arsenal win the fucking league at White Hart Lane. It's nothing new to me to see Arsenal win something. My entire childhood was painted by the victories of Arsenal and the misery of Tottenham Hotspur. This isn't anything new to me. It won't be pleasant. Don't get me wrong. I'm not acting like I'm so above it. But when all is said and done, this isn't a new phenomenon. I can't really remember where my point was going, but the main thing is it's seeing our sort of work again. I mean, I don't want to use the term overshadow because that goes into there always on forever in our shadow shit.
It's fear, right? It's the same type of fear that they are masking. Even with them playing as well as they're playing, and this kind of like rejuvenated, galvanized.
I don't think they fall off, mate. Do you? I don't buy this that it's just they're suddenly going to take a turn and games will stack up and they're going. I think they're going to push City all the way. I do. Right, they've got that momentum.
I'm going to come back to that because I've got a couple of things around that. But just in terms of the way that they perceive us, they're also worried about us, as they should be, and vice versa. Neither fan base wants to see the other club do well at any given point, regardless of where we are in the table. They have momentum on their side, and the dangerous thing around this, as many have already spoken about, is that it has Leicester City energy about it, especially with the rub of the green that they're getting with a lot of decisions and the rest of it. And often momentum can push you above and beyond the reality of perhaps the kind of standard and quality that is required in the Premier League. But at the moment, that standard and quality they're producing, because if you actually look at everyone else, United are kind of, you just don't know with them. Chelsea are probably going to come into the top four chase. But, Liverpool I've just completely lost it. For the moment, so it's just City. A City, obviously, they're going to be they're probably going to win the league comfortably. So there's no pressure on Arsenal, which is classic Arsenal, right? Even though people are saying, of course, there's pressure because they have to continue their form. When they kind of exist in this bubble most of the time, and perhaps now and again, when the bubble bursts, you actually get to see the fragilities and the naivety and the stubbornness of Arteta, and the fact that it's happened a couple of times this season against United, momentarily against Tottenham, even against Liverpool, where they looked like children. Just in the moment, they looked a little bit rattled, and nobody has been able to push them and bully them into complete submission, and perhaps then remind them that there are long running issues that they won't be able to kind of resolve because of the colourful football and the vibrancy that they've got around them at the moment. The problem with that is me waiting for that to happen. It might not, because of the form of the other big teams. Do you get what I'm saying? Even Arsenal, when they play City, they play really well against them. What if this season they actually turn up and see it through rather than play for 20 35 minutes or whatever, and then get dicked by City. What if they beat Man City? And this is this is where you do start to panic as a Spurs fan.
What
I've
if
kind
we
of
beat Man City? Like we usually do.
Well, this is it. Then the thing is, we're likely to take 3 points off them this season, because it is that type of relationship. We've got a very special relationship with Manchester City. So there are those moments where you think it is the Leicester City energy. It is the lack of quality elsewhere, because in that season, everybody basically shut shop. They just it was just Tottenham that really kind of pushed. Even Arsenal that season, they beat Leicester at the Emirates, and then they kind of bottled it after that point. So it is that thing inside your head, that kind of whispering self-doubt and kind of panic-stricken fear that what if they don't falter? And I have actually gone a bit early and said that I expect Arteta out to tweet at some point in October. So I'm going to have to fucking pray to the footballing gods that they've got a sense of humour, and for once they smile down on me and not down the road. But all the better for it. If they're going to be at their very best and we finish above them, that kind of makes it even sweeter for us. Do you know what I mean? So,
well, do you know this? I'll tell you what. One of the things I think, mate, is that as much as my overactive imagination is often prone to thinking about things like, what if Harry Kane goes to Arsenal on a free transfer and such? Similarly, it can do good things, right? And I get that.
Okay.
I get that devilish kind of enjoyment thinking about what if this is all just been set up to, and it would be utterly it would be disgusting to see Tottenham in a title race with Arsenal. But what if this is all getting set up for? We thought Amsterdam was the high note. What if this is our Aguero season? What if this is, we're neck and neck with Arsenal for the Premier League, and last day of the season, Harry Kane's redemption, he scores that big goal that sees us edge above them as they lose away to Leeds or whoever it is they've got last game of the season. This is what it could be, mate. We've got to think about this shit positively. We've got to spin it this way. Well, this is it. This is what I mean. About that is an arc for the ages. It never gets better than that. Beating Arsenal in a title race, last day of the season, never.
Well, this is my point about getting behind the team and the club, because they're fully bought into it, right? I mean, it's bless them. They've been humbled over the years. They've fallen back in love with their football club, right? They got rid of Arsene Wenger. They wanted something. Quite petulantly above and beyond the cups that they were winning. It wasn't good enough. I kind of get that. You want to be ambitious as a football club. They were promised a lot, and their owners did not deliver on those promises. So they've had a reset in amongst all that, and now they are free. There's no constraints. There's no kind of expectancy on them other than the one they're creating from the unity that they find themselves in. And it makes me, I mean, I can taste puke in my mouth as I'm saying all this, but at the same time, I don't look at them and think that they do have the substance for the 38 games. I mean, it would take a spectacular collapse by City, and it would take a gutless kind of challenge from all the other teams supposedly that should be finishing above us and Arsenal. I just my faith is in things to balance out over the course of the season. Maybe I'm deluding myself. Maybe I'm being slightly overprotective of them pushing City, like you said, all the way. And if that does happen, I'd rather focus on what we're doing. What are we doing as a fan base? What are we doing as a team? What are we doing as a football club? Let's celebrate what we're doing as well. Let's not make it about us being worried about them. Let them worry about us, because there'd be nothing funnier than them playing the greatest football they've ever seen in their lives, and for Spurs to finish a point ahead of them again at the end of the season. It will just break them completely and utterly. I think Arteta is nowhere near being the manager that he thinks he is, and I think anyone that brings out a light bulb and chats about Edison and scribbles cartoons and the rest of it. I get it. He's talking to children. He's got to obviously lower his talks and inspirational speeches to a kind of a play school level for them to understand. But I think it would be a disgrace if we let this guy finish above Conte.
And even I don't know. Even the thing is, I always thought he was a. I don't want to go too deep into this, because I think some things are above just like football tribalism. But
he has good ideas. He has good ideas, and
that shit
works under
aside.
Pep.
As somebody as I thought was a good bloke, I thought his post-match comments about Thomas Partey were disgraceful. I thought it was, whatever you feel, if you're his manager and you want to back him and you don't want to get into it, not great, but fair enough. I can kind of come around to that more, to be actively kind of making him the victim in the whole thing. I found perverse, really. Rosa on the Hometown Glory podcast actually speaks about that very succinctly and from the heart about that. So have a listen to their pod and see what Rosa, because she puts it in a way much better than I will be able to. We're talking about Tottenham being overshadowed by Arsenal and our joy of that being overshadowed. You could say similar for Harry Kane. 8 goals in 9 games now from the start of the season. We're not seeing the same old narratives about Harry Kane struggles to start a season. He's always slow. He's on, I think I saw the other day, somebody said his projected goals is going to be probably about 34, 35 goals this year, which is pretty mad considering, he's almost indefinitely going to come runner up to Haaland, who's going to end on a ludicrous score. Manchester City are it's conflicting, isn't it? Right, they're hopefully going to stop Arsenal from winning the Premier League, but it's not maybe as good a thing as it should be. We don't need to go into that too much. I just wanted to talk more about Harry Kane. You've seen him today. He's starting up a charity, a foundation to help sort of young people with their mental health. Trying to open up sort of further conversations to this, and it's interesting because you see these things. You saw his campaign with Harry's razors not long ago, and now this. And I don't know if you have been to or if you've seen anything about his exhibition that was in the London Museum. I filmed a thing there, or it was a work gig there. So I've actually visited the exhibition, seen it all, and one of the themes there is about strength, about mental strength, about belief. Yeah. And we do get the thing, because we don't often see this human side of Harry, and it does make you wonder, like, the kind of the shit that is, he's doing something for CBBC today, and the comments are, as you'd imagine, and it's partly the internet, it's just what it's like, but some of the comments, man, about the guy are just like, fucking hell, really? But he's just, ultimately, he's a good guy, right? I think he is an inspirational figure, and it's a great thing that he's doing. He doesn't have to. People can call these things cynical or whatever, but is it? Or if there's I think the older I get about this stuff, I've always been kind of cynical about celebrities doing charity things and whatever, but the older I've gotten, the more I'm getting to this point of, like, regardless of that, if there's a net good to this stuff, then who gives a fuck? I don't see this as that either with Harry Kane. I don't see. I mean, you have to be really cynical to say that he's being cynical, or being performative, rather, just in terms of doing this just so that he can grow his brand to then be able to do other things in football off the back of it. I mean, people do things mostly from the heart. Not everything is orientated around money and ego and the rest of it. He's a private person. He's a closed-off person. He's not an emotional person. Just in terms of day-to-day, week-to-week, there's always these weird discussions around, is he fully coy? Does he really love Tottenham or not? And it's we don't need to be having these discussions. I mean, obviously, there's tainted history with what happened with his brother in Manchester City and the rest of it and whatever else. But, are we going to constantly look to the past and kind of punish people,
eternally for missteps or things that they've said and done that don't really, you don't factor the reality of him and his family and what he wants out of his own career, even if it's beyond Tottenham, even if we're uncomfortable with that particular
look,
reality.
mate, and let's be brutally honest about this stuff as well. However many years ago, a full stadium of people were singing Dele Alli's name. They loved him. Now, if you even say a slightly misty-eyed kind of thing about Dele Alli, is filled with Tottenham fans saying, well, you're the problem with this club. He wasn't good enough. He wasn't. Do you know what I mean? So this shit goes both ways. This is one of those things that's, a lot of fans like to do this player isn't loyal. They don't play for the show. We aren't fucking loyal either half the time, not. Man. Yeah, soon as a player's out of form, even when Son and Kane are out of form, we're saying maybe it's time to bring Richarlison in or something. So people can fucking bore me later with that stuff, man. It hurts us. Yeah, of course it hurts. I'm not saying it didn't hurt me when he wanted to go, but also at the same time, we were in an awful moment. Like, we just lost Mourinho. We were hiring Nuno Espirito Santo, and the guy's thinking, well, my career's coming to an end. Why should I stick with this? You know, fair enough to him.
I think what he's doing is great. I mean, I've seen the tweets from Tottenham. I've not delved into the children's. I think it's a reading, isn't it, that you were referring to?
Oh, it's like a thing that they do on CBBC.
Yeah. So I've not had to look at that specific thing. Well, I think the foundation thing, anything. I mean, if players are giving their time to if they're basically, he's created a foundation. To question that or to be cynical about that is just a weird take. I just think those people are cynical about everything in life and probably look at everything without compassion and empathy and the rest of it. As for people replying to tweets, in derogatory ways, I mean, for the most part, I'd like to think they're teenagers who probably think football exists solely on social media. Whether they even go to games would be questionable. These people are just point scoring. It's that whole kind of ratio type of post that doesn't mean anything, and it's people just trying to mug people off. It's just unnecessary. I don't think these people would behave like that in real life. They would probably be starstruck if they saw Harry Kane in the street. And when they're a little bit older, and they grow beyond worrying about them losing a game of Fortnite on their Xbox or whatever, they realise how important mental health is when real life kicks in, and you've got all the expectations and things that you need to be doing day to day. You realise how important it is, no matter your age. I'm waffling here. I guess my point is, credit to Harry Kane for doing this, and all the haters can just fucking get in the bin, to be fair. Because if they really sat up and thought about what he was doing, they'd applaud it. For some reason, people don't like doing that. People don't like paying respects or saying something nice. Or saying nothing at all is another thing that you could do. It is an option.
There's probably a lesson I could learn, though, that one, to be fair.
Look, we're all guilty of it in some way. We all. I've said a few things about Thomas Partey online that I shouldn't have said, even though it doesn't change my feelings towards that kind of situation. And maybe in the moment, I thought I was being really clever, but it was when I look back, I like, well, was I point scoring? Am I taking a really serious topic and looking for numbers with tweets? Maybe subconsciously, not consciously. I'd never look to do that consciously with something like that. Just sometimes you're better off not saying anything if you really don't have an opinion on it. But whereas with something like this, it's wholesome, it's productive, it's promoting a good cause. It's Mental Health Day today, right? Obviously, the timing of the post. Just people should be kind to each other, but it's just too difficult for some people to do.
On a sporting note, mate, 10 goals away from equaling 11
That's
goals
mad.
from becoming Tottenham Hotspur's all-time leading goal scorer. I told
mental.
my dad that I let me see. I sent my dad a text. Harry Kane is 11 goals away from being Tottenham's all-time top goal scorer. I can't believe somebody is going to break Greaves' record in the modern era. My dad's response: more games nowadays, different fitness regimes, better quality of pitches and a lighter ball. You'll never improve on the footballing genius of Jimmy Greaves. Not to put down Harry at all, great Spurs player, but I'll always side with Greaves. It's a generational thing. It's my dad's hero growing up, but he loves Harry Kane still. But you know, it's mad, right? It's mad to see somebody break. I've spoken about this before. You know, you always remember it, Championship Manager, Football Manager, the club records. You saw Jimmy Greaves' thing there, and you just thought that is a cement record, right? It's
never to be touched,
it's going nowhere.
Broken.
You know, and by the you could foreseeably see Kane putting another 50 if he stays for the next 2 years. Don't know about beyond that, but if he stays for the next 2 years, you could see him getting 40 goals in that time. It's mad. It's mad. And I don't think we'll ever see that broken in our time, right?
No, I think.
I mean, I've just said that. We won't ever see Kane do it.
Dane Scarlett's going to do it. It is phenomenal, and it's on so many levels. I mean, the fact that fair enough, we nearly lost him to City, you could argue, but the fact that we've managed to retain a player. If you said to me like 10 years ago, like, we're going to have a player that's going to break Greaves' records, my response would be no chance, because we'll sell him halfway through him trying to get that record. If he's that good, everybody's going to want him. How on earth are we going to keep hold of him? And yet here we are, and here he is, and he's still doing it. And he's not only scoring consistently still, he's doing everything. He's doing things Haaland can't do. You know, he drops deep, he playmakes, his passing abilities, he's got that kind of Teddy Sheringham-esque extra yard in his head. So if he's lost that yard on the pitch, he still hasn't lost the ability and the capacity to know when to make the runs and when to play the ball. He's just an all-round generational talent, centre forward, who I think we all appreciate him. For the most part, all Spurs fans probably were a little bit spoiled at this point and expect even more from him and get frustrated with him even sometimes. But I think that's just part and parcel of how we kind of, again, digest football day to day. We're blessed. And we've got Son at the club as well, who's also he's nowhere near Greaves' record, and he never will be, I don't think, but he is also in that top 10 list. We just need to. I just want us to win something now to kind of validate the memories of these players, so that they have stories to tell. That we have stories to tell. You know, even though we're going to tell the stories regardless, because as club servants, they've been absolutely phenomenal. I think we all deserve, with hard graft and a bit of luck, we all deserve that crowning moment. Just so we can look back and say, well, there you go. I mean, even Robbie Keane and Ledley King, won the League Cup. Their memory, my memory of those players would not be diminished had we not beaten Chelsea that day, right? And the same probably, memes and banter from rival fans aside, ignoring all that, for me personally, I feel utterly blessed to have seen these guys play football for my football club. We're watching history play out, and we'll be talking about Kane the way that your dad talks about Greaves, if we ever get to a grand old age. So yeah, it's just mad. I mean, I hope he takes Shearer's record as well, and I hope he does that at Tottenham. But we'll have to wait and see.
It's madness, isn't it? It's certainly good enough for Google, mate. Who, if you believe,
yes,
if you believe the news, are going to come and give us a nice big sum of money. And do you know what? There's way more embarrassing sponsors than that to have on the.
I don't know why they. I mean, I get the whole Google.
There's people are
for trophies.
Precisely, that's it. Searching for trophies, but still, I don't care. I could not give less of a fuck. Give me the money.
You're talking about what? Are they top three? Apple, Amazon are probably above them. Maybe, potentially, I think.
And I think
no,
the
not
other
maybe,
thing is,
potentially. I think they are.
all companies that size probably have questionable things about them, right? As
Yeah,
in
of course.
that forum of mega wealthy clubs, they're one of the less evil ones as well. I would say. I'm sure I'm going to get called out on this, but still.
Google, there's a website which is basically, it lists all the projects and devices and software and applications, all the things that they've basically shut down and cancelled. For all the good that they do with, obviously, their search engine, if you want to define that as good, I guess, for advertisers. But the Google Pixel phone.
I've got a Pixel phone, very good.
Yeah, and they're rather more kind of ecosystem centric, Google Photos and all the other things, right? Gmail, the rest of it, all fantastic. But they have a long list of things they've canned and scrapped. They do love chucking money about to desperate causes. So, but
happy to be the latest one,
without a doubt. That I think the fact that Spurs are this brand in terms of the NFL, in terms of the stadium. I was told yesterday, maybe I missed this in amongst all the news, that they're looking to update the technology that's used to swap the pitch from the NFL pitch to the Tottenham pitch.
Can it play right wing back, mate? That's the question.
I've no idea, but I think the end product is that we're able to kind of house concerts and other events at a far quicker rate. So Levy can squeeze in even more non-football related activities at the Tottenham Stadium that will no doubt trigger loads of people. But money's money, and if it's all going back into the football club, I'm all for it. If it's going to be spent on wages and footballers and the infrastructure, why are we hating on any of this? Just bring it on.
2 weeks of away fixtures, yet we've still had 2 weekends of a full stadium. With the NFL in town. So
yeah,
whatever.
I'm telling you,
get over it.
Yeah.
You moan about Manchester City being able to buy Erling Haaland. Well, this is as close as we're going to get. This is it. So
you want to be if you really want to join that club. If you really want to become this kind of elite superpower, as dirty as that sounds, leaving my mouth, and dirtier things have left my mouth, no doubt, in my lifetime. But if you want to be that, I don't even know what that means. What did I mean by that? If you want to, if you want to be competing at that level constantly, if you want to be a football club, if this is what you actually do want, that could potentially win the Champions League or the league title every season, there's certain things that you need to be doing in order to catch up, and knowing full well that all those steps you make to catch up, they're making steps to kind of grow even more. So we are in this weird position as Spurs. We were left behind with Sky Sports top four. We caught up, and now we've kind of been left behind by what City and Chelsea and one or two others have done over the past 10 years. But again, we should celebrate the fact that we're in amongst it still. We can have this discussion, Jack. We can talk about it, and it's not just theoretical nonsense and kind of dreamy, just rubbish that's coming out of our mouths, things that will never play out. We could win the league. And this is coming from a football fan base that hasn't won a trophy for like 14 years. But we can have a conversation about, well, we could win the league if City fuck up and we get ahead of Arsenal. We could win it, and the fact we can have these conversations means something. It makes everything tangible. So give us the money. Let Levy do what he's doing. Love him or hate him, we're doing the right thing right now, and you got to back that, and you got to get behind that, because them look down the road, they're getting behind their swamp of a football club, and we have got to unite at this end, the Seven Sisters, and do the same thing.